Hey there, little geeky boppers, and welcome to GC2MT. Now, we're going to have a little look at some Phoenix gameplay here today, and the Phoenix is the ship that I'll probably be reviewing next on my blog, and it's definitely a lot more fun than I remembered it. So I was in the beta test, and I definitely didn't have anything against this ship, but I remember really wanting to upgrade to the Omaha as quickly as possible because the Omaha had turrets, and somehow I guess I just felt like this ship wasn't right without turrets. Like, a warship needs to have turrets, like a tank. I mean, I've played tank destroyers and that kind of thing before, but this was one of those ones where I just felt like somehow it was going to be naturally inferior without them. Now, of course, at that point, I hadn't really learned an awful lot of tactics. Here you can see me using my map. You might have noticed that I was a little bit slow to get started in this match. That's mainly random battles. I have to kind of see where everyone's going and then pick a direction. Otherwise, I'll usually just peel out in whatever direction I like, head towards cover. So, as I was saying, the Phoenix, I mean, no turrets is a bit odd, but it actually has a whole lot of broadside guns. This was something that was a lot of fun on the St. Louis class ship at the Tier 4. Now, the St. Louis, very fun, and I think a very noob-friendly ship. Easily one of the most noob-friendly ships around, just because it has so many guns, it's very maneuverable, shifts very quickly, and it's not even that fast, so you tend not to crash into islands nearly as much. Crash into islands? No, crash into islands, Tim. Whatever. So, the Phoenix is definitely one of the more... A lot of people feel like it's a slight step down when they unlock it. And this is due to the fact that it actually has less guns than the St. Louis does. Now, you'll see me here steering towards that destroyer that I spotted. Phoenix is an excellent ship for hunting down destroyers. I would say that between it and the Atlanta, they're probably my two favorite ships for just wrecking the faces of destroyers. They really specialize in it. And it's mainly because they've got the speed, the maneuverability, and when you see me using the guns on this, you're going to start to understand why I eventually realized that this was definitely a step up from the St. Louis. So the St. Louis's problem is that it's not nearly as fast and not nearly as agile as the Phoenix. Of course, it was a protected cruiser, which is to say, not a pre-battleship kind of ship. I mean, battleships existed when the St. Louis was around, but it was really meant to be a brawling ship. Whereas the Phoenix was a light scout cruiser. It really was designed to hunt destroyers, go commerce raiding, lead destroyer groups, and of course go out and find the enemy fleet, so scout out for great fleet actions. Now, something that I mentioned in my blog is that there is a technique which I call slalom shooting, where you shift your ship side to side. So you can see here I've exposed the portside guns. Here I go unloading onto a St. Louis. Now the St. Louis should beat me because it just simply has way more guns than I do. And yet, it's not actually in firing range at the moment, so this guy has no response to me. And you'll note, if you look at the bottom left, you'll see I'm actually turning around, so I've pulled out here to try and demonstrate. I also pull out for situational awareness, but of course, I pull out largely because I want to get the other guns firing. Now, the rate of fire on the Phoenix is pretty good, but you will find that if you shift back and forward, so shift port, shift starboard, you will actually be able to turn the ship one way, present a broadside or an angled broadside, fire your guns, then shift the ship the other direction and fire the opposite side broadside. It's a really effective tactic, and one of the great features of it is it means you are almost never presenting that flat broadside. Now, if you guys have watched any videos before about World of Warships, you'll know that presenting a flat broadside is not the best idea. Presenting a flat broadside means your armor is unangled, and you're giving your enemies the best possible target to fire at. So you can see here off in the distance, that St. Louis, he's pretty much giving me his broadside, whereas I'm trying to always avoid having a flat, unangled surface aimed towards the enemy. And here I'm starting the slalom, and you can actually see, if you keep an eye on the bottom left of the screen, you'll notice that I'm constantly shifting back and forward, firing this broadside and that broadside. And alternative to this, you can actually just go into a circle. So you can see here, I've pulled out the camera, and you can notice me shifting back again to bring those guns on the port side back onto target, mainly because I want to charge this guy. I mean, at the moment I'm mostly hanging off at distance because it's giving me the advantage here, but you do really want, especially against destroyers, to always be coming towards them. You want to present the narrowest possible area for them to shoot at so that you're always a small target. Your armor is always angled, so you're preferably going to be deflecting shots that are coming in, and hopefully you're closing the distance because the Phoenix does have torpedoes. Now, I don't really make much use of the torpedoes on this ship simply because the guns are pretty damn good. They've got a good range, you can keep getting a good saturation out of them, and for the most part, you really don't need to use the torpedoes that often. And of course, being American torpedoes, at this tier, they're not very good. They're pretty short range, they're fairly fast in the water, but for the most part, they exist for one reason and one reason only: coming around the corners and surprising a battleship, which you will see later on, I believe, in this replay. Now, I chose this replay because it demonstrated the slaloming technique, which you can see here. You can see off there a battleship has decided to stop and reverse, making him a very easy target. I say that even though my first volley missed, mainly because I was aiming ahead of him, expecting him to continue going forward. Anyway, you can see I've now got plunging shots on him. The HE is just slamming the whole area. I do throughout this replay try to switch between AP and HE shots whenever I can. Obviously, against a battleship, I'm going to favor HE, even though plunging fire can actually be quite effective with your armor-piercing rounds. For the most part, my objective in random battles, in cruisers particularly, is not to be my enemy's primary target. I always wait until they're facing someone else, preferably a battleship which has the toughness to deal with them, and then I go into this mode, which is essentially supporting fire. HE is better for supporting fire because you're really all about starting those fires. Now, as soon as I see an enemy cruiser, I'll usually, depending on the way that they're coming at me, I will switch back and forth between AP and HE. AP, of course, is great when it's plunging downwards, but it's also really good when the enemy presents you with their broadside. The St. Louis in particular, I mean, it's an amazing ship, I enjoy it, I love it, and for its tier, it's damn near overpowered, but a Phoenix should overpower it. Now, I know I'm on a bit of a rant here, I should go back and quickly mention that the thing I said at the beginning about the Omaha, when I played the beta, didn't really enjoy the Phoenix that much. I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy it, even though I just did. I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy it, I would say that I was all about getting up to the Omaha because it has those turrets. But I did notice now when I unlocked the Omaha on the open access game, it's not as good as the Phoenix. For its tier, it just feels less maneuverable, it feels like it has less firepower to bring to bear. It does actually lose, I believe it loses its port and starboard side guns in favor of the turrets, and the turrets, well, they don't turn as quickly as the ship does, so I can shift the ship back and forward doing this slalom approach, while the turrets, well, having the rear turret in particular is usually going to be facing only one direction throughout the whole battle, and if you shift to the other side, so do the slalom technique as I'm doing here on this lovely little destroyer, well, you're never going to get those rear turrets aimed at the enemy, and you will end up stuck with the problem that cruisers have, getting into a broadside fight. If you get into a broadside fight in a cruiser, you're presenting yourself as the worst possible target. You're making yourself very easy for battleships to land big shots on, very easy for enemy cruisers to land shots on, and easier for torpedoes, the torpedoes fired by destroyers to catch you. Now, you'll note throughout this, I'm always trying to position myself wherever I can to keep firing the guns, and that is the big thing with cruisers, is you have excellent damage per minute and area saturation. You are always pounding away with those guns. Now, at this point, I'm actually maneuvering up the middle because I want to get closer to where the enemy carriers are. I do want to get into torpedo range on the enemy cruiser and battleship that are left over, and I've noticed that the battleship is on the other side of those islands. Now, he's pretty far away, but at this point I figure I'm either going to get a lot of supporting fire into the guy, or I'm going to get some torpedoes into him. Now, the other thing, of course, with cruisers that happens later in the game is you take on an anti-air support role. Now, that's really not a big deal at this stage. In this stage of the game, things are just way too easy to shoot down. Like, aircraft are slow, so they spend a long time in your anti-aircraft range. They are fragile, so they tend to get shot down quite easily, and you don't have that anti-aircraft barrage ability. Most ships can kind of defend themselves from aircraft at this point. Something to concern yourself with later, so if you're looking for advice on how to play cruisers, just remember the advice at low tiers doesn't necessarily apply to mid and late tiers. Here I am again, slamming out that HE. I am getting closer. I don't remember if I get into torpedo range here or not, but whatever. We'll see what happens. I mean, all I care about is getting as many hits as I possibly can, and preferably not being this guy's primary target. So, the Omaha, we will have a full blog about that fairly soon, in which I'll go into a hell of a lot more detail about how I feel about going over to turrets after using this ship. This ship is only really that good because it has this maneuverability. It has this slalom technique, which you can see in effect here. Omaha, on the other hand, well, while the turrets mean you can always bring about a maximum amount of firepower, it does have the downside that you can't perform this technique that I'm doing here to quite the same degree. That rear turret just never seems to be able to keep up. So, as I said, I don't think I actually do get torps off unless I'm about to come around the corner and drop these. It has been a little while since I watched this gameplay. And the reason I chose this video is because it's actually a great example of, you know, a little bit of noob-friendly action. I mean, I'm not calling myself pro gamer here. I never would claim that. I just claim to understand the game mechanics. I'm getting into 5-kilometer range. What does that mean? I think it means it's Christmas time. Presents all around. Now, here's a tactical decision coming up. Do you turn to the port or do you turn to the starboard? Well, that guy is a battleship and, well, he doesn't have any other targets. If you look down in the mini-map, you can see he doesn't have anything else to shoot at, so he's going to be trying to shoot at me. So I turn into the island here, which is risky because I'm totally going to get beached right now. There is no way that I don't get beached. And as you can see, my guns fire straight into the island. Now, here I clip the beach, but it's good enough. He's not going to be able to come around in time. And those torpedoes, well, it's not Christmas time after all. Or is it? I'm actually kind of glad I got that off, but as you can see, there is not much left in between me and the enemy CV, so carrier for those of you who are a little bit new to this. And guess what? I'm already in gun range. This is the kind of thing, derp into the island just there, this is the kind of thing that sets the Phoenix and of course Omaha apart from the St. Louis. While the St. Louis for new players is outstanding, hell of a lot of fun, it does have one significant problem. Gun range is awful. And of course the Phoenix, while it has less guns, can reach out a hell of a lot further. And you can see, even at maximum range here, I'm already lighting up this carrier like bonfire night. This guy is about to burn, and this is like what everybody dreams about. Some of the more observant of you will have probably been looking down at the map right now and see that, yeah, you can see what's coming. But anyway, this is what most cruiser, destroyer, and battleship captains dream of, putting the unrestrained beatdown on a helpless carrier. Yep, you can see it over there on the right, can't you? So I'm putting the absolute smackdown on this guy. At this point, I was actually reaching out for a handful of butter to rub on my chest, simply because, oh yeah, this is fantastic. This is exactly the kind of thing that you get into these games for. The ability to, once you've finished off the enemy, to start cleaning up. Now, there's one down, and of course, Christmas time. I actually did scream Christmas time when I was playing this, and I saw this guy coming. And this is where I derp hard. Now, watch out, because I'm enjoying myself way too much here. This is like more fun than should be legal, but just wait, because you're about to see what goes wrong. What goes horribly, horribly wrong. There is a fantastic player on the enemy team, and I haven't even noticed the guy yet. You might actually notice in the map down there, see, I'm tunnel visioning on this carrier, but you might notice just down there in the bottom right, somebody just picked up 2 kills. Not only did he pick up 2 kills, he has cleared the way towards me, and what was that? That was a pretty heavy hit. Now, I'm still tunnel visioning. I did see the heavy damage notice, but I assumed my team, which was all over there on the right, there were 2 ships taking on that one enemy cruiser. More damage. What the hell is going on? Yep, enemy cruiser, and it is going to kick the shit out of me. There we go. Destroyed by Suffer. Now, that is a terrible example of me not paying nearly enough attention to what was going on around me, and I suffered for it. Thank you very much, Mr. Suffer. He's actually in, I believe, a enemy Murmansk, which is actually an Omaha, if I'm not mistaken. So it is the step up from the Phoenix. It's an Omaha that was sent off to the USSR as part of the Lend-Lease effort, and that carrier got away. Now, the Suffer, the Murmansk, he did go down, but holy crap, he cleared out half our bloody team without me even noticing. And of course, he deserves the awards he's getting, the high caliber and double strike. And Mr. Suffer, that was fantastic. I think we should start a whole new suffrage movement just for you, and it's all about badass rights. And of course, down goes his carrier friend. Bye-bye, Mr. Carrier. So, good game all round, but I thought that I did pretty well, but yeah. In the end, Everyone just rolls for initiative, I guess.